Hello and welcome to the new edition of our ABBA League magazine show. The Zagreb derby was on schedule with Cibona trying to defeat still undefeated Cedevita. We've also taken a look at the camp of the most pleasant surprise this season. Olimpia is still setting new negative records. The defending champion got a lucky break away from home and of course the best 5 actions of the round. Marko Tomas has already undergone a surgery which fixed his ruptured Achilles tendon, but the season is still over for him since the rehabilitation takes at least 6 months. This injury follows the first one earlier in the season when he was forced to miss the Eurobasket. Cedevita is already searching for a replacement. MZT's Todor Gečovski, who was expelled in the game against Partizan, received 1 game suspension. He will miss the game against Mega Vizura and also receive a financial fine of €800. We start our highlights in the Zagreb derby, where the still only undefeated team of the league and the defending Croatian champion crossed swords in the capital of Croatia. The home team was the first one to score through Andrija Žižić, who was eventually the best scorer of the game with 15 points. And for the visitors, it was Marino Baždarić who broke the deadlock. But it was Cibona who started better. The first significant lead of the game was set by Marin Rozic with a 3. Jasmin Repeša's boys did manage to stay in touch, and after the first 10 minutes of play, the home team was in front by 5. And then the turnaround in the second quarter, in which Cibona wasn't able to score for more than 5 minutes, and Cedevita was able to take its first lead of the game. From then on, we were witnessing an equal game, which has eventually plagued with a horrible injury to Marko Tomas. He had torn his Achilles tendon and had even talked about ending his career afterwards, but hadn't mentioned it further when the surgery was over. The end result of the first half was set by Darko Planinic after a nice pass by Jarell Blasingame. Cedevita without a 3 in 11 attempts and Cibona missing 12 free throws. In the third quarter, Cedevita was twice able to take the lead for the last time after Miro Bilan was successful to make it 39-37. The last time the result was equal was through Jusuf Nurkic, who was eventually Cedevita's best scorer of the night with 14 points, but wasn't able to finish the game since he was expelled together with Jarell Blasingame after the pair was overly enthusiastic in fighting for the ball. The last points of the quarter were then scored by Nolan Smith, who only managed 6 in this game altogether. And then a complete collapse for the visitors in the last period, in which they weren't able to score for 8.5 minutes, while Cibona scored 13. It was Andrija Žižić's period. He provided 7 out of 15 for Cibona. A minute and a half before the end, Cedevita scored its first points of the quarter through Miro Bilan on the free throw line. And in fact, all 3 points of the last 10 minutes for Cedevita was scored from the free throw line and by Bilan. The end result of the game was set by Dario Šarić, who could reach a double-double in the end with 11 points and just as many rebounds. So a first defeat of the season for Cedevita. There aren't many fairgrounds which also have sporting halls, or warehouses for that matter, who can offer space for training grounds. Zagreb is one of the cities which offers both. In the facility which hosts an ice rink, there is also place for a local basketball team. Cedevita doesn't play its games on the southern brink of the Croatian capital, which could be troubling, but if we take a look at the cases throughout Europe and also the NBA, none of the teams train in the halls in which they play their games. All of the clubs play in large halls and there's no sense in practicing in them. For us, that is also not a problem. But we have put up the same baskets we use in Dom Sportova where we play our games. On match days we only practice shooting, but that is not a problem to us. The youngest Croatian club therefore has all the right conditions for work throughout all the selections. Undoubtedly, we are happy to have built a very useful training center which boasts 3 full-size courts as well as 1 half-size for individual practice. There is also a big fitness room, a rehabilitation room, basically everything in order to prepare really well. Producing future basketball players is very important to us, as our basketball school is the most numerous in Croatia, maybe even in the whole region. At present, there is more than 700 kids enrolled in it. But the future is undoubtedly reliant on sponsors who help us build the budget. We have cut the budget in regards to last year, and because of that we look more to the younger players who might have a bright future. We think it's the right way to go. A renowned expert who is now in charge of the senior team might also be a guarantee for future success. When we were pondering which coach to employ, Jasmin Repeša turned out to be an ideal choice. Primarily because of the fact he likes to produce players, but at the same time he has a world of experience. In our opinion, this is a winning combination. A 3-year contract is a clear sign that the club means business with Croatian national team coach. We have undertaken a project with a clear vision of producing a EuroLeague squad with players with big potential. But we will have to be patient, as young teams inevitably have oscillations. But these players have what it takes, and that is the desire and the ambition to work hard. Repeša will try to reach those goals with a talented playmaker, Nolan Smith. When his name emerged as a possible reinforcement, it appealed to us instantly. Whoever undergoes a basketball education at Duke University and actually becomes a champion with it, and on top of that under the guidance of Mike Krzyzewski, it's very likely to be a talented player, and that's why we've engaged him, beside the fact that he hasn't played much in the last 2 years, and that this is his first contact with the European game. The 25-year-old had only played on the other side of the Atlantic so far, and of course Europe is a new and special experience for him.
Obviously, being far away from home is very different, but at the end of the day, I'm here to play basketball. I'm here on a business trip. You know, obviously the living life is very comfortable here, which is great, but, you know, being here to play basketball, to help this club win.
The player is used to winning. After all, he was the NCAA champion with Duke University.
That's the best team I've been on, you know, personally, you know, winning-wise. You know, and that's always going to be #1 in a basketball player's mind, the best team. And that team right there was, you know, just very together. You know, we did everything together off the court, on the court, and people didn't really have us pick to win it that year. You know, they had Kentucky with John Wall, Ohio State's, you know, the Kansases, and we took the court every single game. We had a single goal, and we took care of business every single night, and winning the championship was just the icing on the cake.
How sweet his life is poised to be, we will of course eventually see. After 2 seasons with the Portland Trail Blazers, we might assume he has enough experience to help out his new team, but he won't be alone on the court, that is for sure. Last year, Olimpija grabbed the win in both encounters with Radnički, but this year it was still hunting for that elusive win. The home team was the first one to score, with Stefan Jovic hitting a strange 3. Alex Stevenson was the first one for the visitors, and that was followed by an 8-0 partial for Radnički. Then Nebojša Joksimovic scored for 3. He had 12 points in the end, but also 6 turnovers. The outfit from Ljubljana was able to take the lead, but only briefly, as Sava Lešić set the end result of the first quarter, Radnički ahead by a single point. Olimpia started well in the second period through Dragiša Drobnjak. That was interrupted by Sava Lesic and his nice rolling. But then a first fruit was spelled from the visitors, rounded up by Salin's three-pointer, which had put Olimpia 4 points ahead. But that story was quickly over as the home team secured an 11-0 partial, after which Radnički led by 7 and Sava Lesic had already scored 15 points. Then Olimpia's captain was able to score his first three-pointer of the season to make it 36-32, and the end result of the first half was 38-34, set by Sasu Salin. Nikola Kalinic scored for 3, that being his only field goal of the game, which made it 49-41. When Nikola Jevtovic scored 2 out of his 9 points altogether, the lead had risen to 11 points, which had forced Aleš Pipan to take a timeout, but that didn't have any effect as Lesic was able to score his 24th point of the game right at the end of the third period, which had ended with 60-47 for Radnički. Lesic picked up where we left off at the beginning of the last quarter, putting Radnički ahead with 15, and then finally Davidas Gailius was able to score for the first time from open play. Marko Marinovic was also having a good game, eventually amounting 15 points and 8 assists, but he wasn't the only one in his team with passing ability. It is Lesic employing Jevtovic for his slam dunk. After he had scored again, Radnički was already 19 points to the good, with the visitors fighting it hard to produce anything. Omic scored 9 out of his 11 points in the last quarter, but that was far from enough to unsettle the home team, who had eventually won the game with 81-66, thus reaching its third win of the season. Olimpia's 5th straight defeat emphasizes it's by far the worst start to the season of the club from Ljubljana. Krka played host to the best team of last year's regular season, which apparently this year had far worse luck in picking up its reinforcements. Matej Rojc was the first one to score in the game, and for the guests it was Nemanja Gordic. Low-scoring first quarter was won by Igor Kea with 12-11. Malcolm Armstead took his team in front at the start of the second period by scoring 6 consecutive points, with Gordic equaling for the last time in the first half. Chris Booker was having a good game at the end of the first 20 minutes. Besides scoring 6 in that period, he was also successful in blocking Gordic's attempt at the end of the half, which Krka won by 26-21. Both teams were efficient from far in the third period, with a 3 from Stemberger to make it 26-24, followed by 3 Krka's three-pointers and a lead of 35-27. That lead was soon elevated to 12 when Armstead was able to score twice in a row. He also rounded up the quarter with a 3, setting the result of 50-39 after the third period, in which Krka scored 6 three-pointers from only 8 attempts. When Jaka Klobuchar scored 2 out of his 9 points, it was already 52-39. But then the visitors replied, scoring the next 11 points and closing the gap to just 2. Then 2.5 minutes before the end, Branko Jorovic equaled the score to 61. The feat was then repeated just 1 minute later, when Nemanja Gordic, at the end the best scorer of the game with 23 points, put it 65 apiece. Then the same player put the visitors 1 point in front just 40 seconds before the end. But Muric was quick to reply with his three-pointer. 22 seconds on the clock remaining when Muric hit another 3, as he had scored 9 out of last 12 points for Krka. and was in the end its best scorer with 18. Then Steenbergen missed for 3 for the guests, after which Armstead had only scored once from the free throw line, which meant Igokea could have forced it overtime, but the hero of the last round, Siniša Steenbergen, missed again, and Krka was able to reach its 3rd win of the season. 5,000 people turned out in Skopje to see their MZT take on the defending champion Partizan. A former Partizan player, Stefan Sinovec, opened the proceedings with a 3. And then the French national team player, Geoffrey Lauvergne, hit first for the visitors. Georgi Čekovský then scored the next 7 points to put the home team 11 points ahead. When it was 15-9 for MZT, Todor Gečevský received a second technical foul and was expelled from the game. Soon after, another technical foul, this time for Partizan's coach Duško Vojošević. A fiery half ended with the home team 5 points in front. Partizan led for the first time in the game when Terence Kinsey put it to 26-25, but then it was MZT's turn to score 8 consecutive points. Bogdan Bogdanovic was the main name of the end of the first half. He scored 7 out of 9 Partizan's points in that period, and that meant that the black and white from Belgrade won the half by a single point. The visitors opened the second half through George Gagic, but MZT was able to retake the lead through its best scorer of the night, Nikola Otašević. He had 16 to his name in the end. Then 6 points in a row for the visitors to make it 44-40, after which Georgi Čekovský received his 4th personal foul, which of course was a problem for Skopje. Partizan took advantage of that and reached its highest lead of the game, +8, when Milosavljević was successful for 3. After 3 quarters of play, it was 55-51 for the visitors. Milosavljević assisted for Gagic's slam dunk to make it 62-56, but then the home team scored 8 in a row and retook the lead mainly through Uroš Lučić. Then Alexander Kostovski scored the next 5, and Skopje led by 4 2 minutes before the end of the match. After Lauvergne dunked just 38 seconds till the end, Partizan was behind by just a point. Skopje, in the other end, blew the opportunity to score, and that meant that Partizan had 8 seconds to win the game, which they did, just 1.4 seconds before the end, after the initially missed shot from Bogdanovic was nicely corrected by Terence Kinsey, the eventual MVP of the game, with 26 points. The last shot of the game came from Kostovski, but it was blocked by Bogdanovic, and that was win number 4 for Partizan, and of course a big disappointment for Skopje after a lost opportunity. Budućnost traveled to Široki and started really well, scoring the first 11 points of the game, mainly through Vitkovac and Čapin, both amassing 16 points each eventually. All of that was of course enough for Damir Vujanovic, the home team's coach, to take an early timeout. All in all, it took nearly 4 minutes for Široki to score, courtesy of Boris Barac, who had 13 points in the end. But the visitors kept on playing well, and after Popovic's 3, the lead had already grown to 12 points, with the home team managing only 5. It stayed that way all the way till the end of the half, when Budućnost had already reached a 16-point advantage. 12 out of 14 Široki's shots went begging in the first 10 minutes. After Aleksa Popovic was the first one to score in the second period, the lead had grown to 18, when finally the home team started waking up. Here's Boris Barac closing the gap to 13. A new problem for Široki arose when Franko Kastropil was forced to leave the court after receiving a heavy punch to his nose. Jalil Akindele was punished with an unsporting foul. Široki did take advantage of the situation and scored 8 consecutive points, and it was only 30-23 after Kacic's points. The end result of the first half was set by Jonathan Jones as he hit a 3 in the last second to make it 34-28. But Budućnost then again opened well at the start of the second half, and after 6 consecutive points by Aleksandar Čapin, the gap again opened to 16 points. Čapin was instrumental in the next Budućnost scoring run, after which the visitors has raised the bar even higher to 21. With Jones's 5 points, Široki cut the deficit to 16, but that was again followed by Budućnost's scoring spree. Aleksa Popovic rounded up an 8-2 run, which took the visitors to a new highest lead of 22. It was 64-45 after 30 minutes of play. On the night, Budućnost was simply too good for Široki. Akindele was at his best. He was the best player in the last quarter. At some 4 odd minutes till the end, the Montenegro champion raced away to a 25-point lead, which meant the match, of course, was all but decided. Široki was at least able to cut the deficit at least a little, as the guests did step up the gas pedal a little bit. Tomislav Petrovic in the end managing to reach 16 points, but of course it wasn't enough to prevent a third win for Budućnost. Crvena Zvezda was of course a big favorite to win against Szolnok, since it has won both games last year with ease. 3,000 people turned up in Belgrade to see this match. Slovenian national team player Jaka Blažić opened the proceedings. He was Zvezda's second most efficient player on the night with 14. Instant reply from Tomislav Ivošo, and then the only lead of the game for the visitors, set by the American Willie Warren, who was eventually the best scorer of the night with 18. The low post domination was quickly highlighted by Raško Katic, who scored 8 of his 11 points in the first quarter. Peter Laurent made sure the visitors somehow stayed in touch, but only briefly, since that was followed by a 13-0 run for Zvezda. Branko Lazic said the end result of the first period, it was 25-11. Boban Marjanović was unstoppable that evening. Besides putting his team 16 points in front at the beginning of the second quarter, he also managed to reach 16 points and 8 rebounds in only 11 minutes spent on the court. Then 5 points in a row from Bala Shimon to reduce the gap to 11, but that was followed by another good scoring run from the home team, which led to the biggest lead of the first half by 19, when Charles Jenkins scored for 3. 50-35 after the first 20 minutes of play. The home offensive didn't stop in the third period. 10 successive points took them 26 in front. At the end of the quarter, and after another 10-2 partial, Crvena Zvezda was leading by enormous 29 points, with that lead being reduced only slightly till the end of the period, which ended with 74-47. The biggest lead of the match was actually 32, set by Jaka Blažić with his only 3-pointer of the night, and of course the game was decided, which had turned on a green light for some less experienced Zvezda's players to get the chance of playing. Akos Horvat managed to score twice for 3, and the result of the match was set by a 17-year-old Dusan Ristic. 90-64 was the biggest win of the 5th round in ABA League. So, no more undefeated teams in the league, as Cedevita fell victim to Cibona in the Zagreb derby, a first win away from home from Mega Vizura, while Krka made sure at least one Slovenian team managed to win. Olympia's slump still continues, no wins in 5 now for the team from Ljubljana. There's a change at the top as well, as Cedevita dropped to 4th after losing to Cibona. Both Belgrade clubs topped the chart after round 5. Olimpia still the only team without a win. The American Terence Kinsey of Partizan is our MVP of the round, reaching a playing index of 32 in the win against Skopje. In 32 minutes of play, he reached 26 points and adding 6 rebounds and 3 assists to that tally, as well as scoring the winning basket of the game. And now let's take a look at the 5 best actions of the 5th round. In number 5, there's a nice combination by MTD Skopje, Stefan Simovic finishing well. At number 4, it's Partizan's action with a nice pass by Milosavljevic and a slam dunk by Đorđe Gagić. Here's number 3 and Sava Lesic dunking after a nice pass by Marko Marinovic. Here's a very nice piece of play at number 2 by Boris Barac, ending it well with a slam dunk and a foul. And in the end, the best and the most important action of the week, a game decider by Terence Kinsey, our MVP of the round. Saturday is the beginning of the 6th round, with 2 biggest matches being played on Sunday as Partizan hosts Cibona and Crvena Zvezda travels to Podgorica to meet the Montenegro champion Budućnost. And this is all for today. Take care until the next time. Bye-bye.